Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Public Works Committee meeting for August 28th, 2023. Call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the land acknowledgement. Grimsby is situated on treaty land. The land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Grimsby stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. As we begin, are there any disclosures of interest? Seeing none, we can move on to our first agenda item. Can I get a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Costangi, seconded by Councillor Howe. Resolved that the August 28th, 2023 Public Works agenda be approved. All in favor? It's carried. Can I get a mover and a seconder to receive the previous minutes, the Public Works minutes dated July 24th, 2023? Got Member Rady, seconded by Member Murphy. Resolved that the July 24th, 2023 Public Works Committee minutes be received. All in favor? It's carried. All right, welcome our delegation tonight. We have a delegation from Ursula Pilzero on speed calming measures on Bartlett Avenue. Ursula, the floor is yours. While you're getting set up there, I'll welcome Member Smink, who is online. Hi, Margot, and thanks for being able to make it tonight. We know that it wasn't super convenient for you, so we appreciate it. Sorry, Ursula, please.
I apologize in advance for the lag on my voice.
Thank you. Sorry, Ursula, the floor is yours.
Oh, should I start again? Yeah, okay. Good evening, councillors and committee members. I'm here this evening to present an overview and a petition to ensure the safety and quality of life of Bartlett Avenue residents. Recognizing the circumstances of last week's council decision regarding the reduction of speed on Roberts Road, which I do not wish to rehash, I'm addressing the specific, unique set of conditions of Bartlett Avenue North. Bartlett is a very short street, and it links Lake Street to Tupper Boulevard, and it is a direct route to Grimsby Beach and to the area which the council recently issued parking restrictions to one side of the street on Tupper. So you can see the areas that are involved. With its direct connection to the QEW ramp, drivers seem to view Bartlett Avenue as a continuation of the QE, as well as a ramp on-ramp onto the highway. Additionally, when there are traffic issues on the highway, Lake Street, which is the North Service Road, intersects Bartlett, and it's chosen as an alternate route. Vehicles speed down Bartlett, and the drivers, when realizing it is not a through road, turn around and speed back to Lake Street. And we had that tonight on my way here. So with these speeding, there are cars, there's construction trucks, a lot of those this summer, home building because of that, and beach cleanup, perhaps, delivery trucks, which really race up and down, and motorcycles. But what we have, Bartlett Street is actually a residential area, and it has no sidewalks, but there is a lot of people traffic. So not this, the vehicle that I'm concerned about is the people. So when you have, there are dog walkers, there's parents pushing their strollers down the street, there are kids, there's cyclists, there's seniors strolling, there are health enthusiasts, and we also have oftentimes the Shalom Manor residents being driven on their bicycles. It's a double bicycle setting. What is happening here? Okay, those are the ones I wanted. Therefore, I'm presenting the petition that I'm presenting this petition on behalf of Bartlett Street residents to council requesting assistance to manage the speed of vehicles on our street. Then the petition was signed by almost 100% of the people. One was away on vacation, so everyone on the street signed. I'm off. The policy with respect to speed, wait a minute. Did I go back? I think I messed up, didn't I? Let me go back. I'm sorry. How do I go back? There. I appreciate it. I'm sorry. I need help with my computer. Okay. I will just continue with what I did. We have a suggested solution, and that is speed humps, not speed bumps. There is a difference. It's important to see that there's a precedent-setting action in other towns and other cities. And for example, a policy by municipal staff on the installation of speed bumps in residential neighborhoods, thank you, across Windsor was expected by early May in 2022. And the council approved $1 million for traffic calming measures last year, including speed bumps. But they will only be approved for installation if a certain percentage of residents in a given neighborhood sign a petition in favor. So we have very enthusiastic residents on our street. And this was with Chris Campbell from the CTV Windsor News. Now, this policy was with respect to speed bumps, with dollars invested for traffic calming measures, which can be interpreted to include speed humps. There's a difference between speed humps and speed bumps. Upon completion of the transportation master plan, we hope that Bartlett Avenue will be considered for installation of speed humps to increase the safety and quality for the residents of Bartlett Avenue. And I thank you, and I'm sorry that I messed up the slides.
Thank you, Ms. Pelissero. Questions? Are there any questions for Ms. Pelissero?
Yes.
Councilor Cristangi?
Thank you.
Thank you, through Chair. How many speed bumps? So I just want to make sure I have the right area. So we're talking from Lake on Bartlett, from Lake Street down to the lake, right?
Correct.
Okay. And how many speed bumps do you think would be necessary?
I would think perhaps 2 maximum, because the area is a very short distance, and that will hopefully keep the speed at bay as they're going down to the beach or back. The reason I thought it would be better to have speed humps instead of bumps, the bumps are much higher, and that would not be good for foot traffic. And seeing that we have so many people walking and using our street as a big pathway, then we would want it to be safe as well, because there's many individuals who are using their either walkers or and baby buggies, etc. So we've taken that into consideration, and hopefully that's the solution to the issue that we have. Plus the fact that we have such a unique proximity to the QE, because they come roaring down, and our Bartlett is a direct link to the QE. I mean, we're so close. Ours is the corner house, and I can attest that it gets pretty nasty on some days. And one of those times was, again, tonight to get here. There must have been a problem around Beamsville or Lincoln because they were all coming down Lake. Did you find that? Yeah, yeah. So, you know, we're not trying to do like with the speed, what are those stakes called? Yeah, we're not talking about that. It's just a very simple measure. We're not even asking for sidewalks, you know? It's just, let's have what we have, but have it in a safer condition. It's not like we're asking a lot because we're not even asking sidewalks, nothing. We just want the cars to slow down.
Member Rady?
So I just want to be clear, there's parking on one side allowed today?
Apparently on Tupper.
On Tupper,
Yeah, Tupper
right.
has just been
Changed to one side.
And I think that on Bartlett, only one side as well.
And you have ditches on both sides, swales?
Deep, yeah.
Right. Okay, so there's no sidewalk, we got a ditch on both sides of the street?
Yep, we
We
do.
allow cars to park on one side?
Yeah.
That's a nasty situation.
It is, it's uncomfortable, and when I went door to door, speaking with people, one gentleman said, and when I said, well, they always look for accidents when they're trying to say, you know, is it safe? And he said, oh, there's been accidents down at the corner there, where they go from, right onto Tupper from Bartlett around the corner. And there's been a head-on collision there because they cut the corners. It's such an extreme turn. So that's another thing that contributes to the problem. Plus, there's a B&B open there now. And we get newbies coming in. So it's getting a little frustrating.
Thank you. Member Spink, I see your hand up online. I'll let you go next.
And I hope you can hear me. I wanted to thank Ms. Palsaro for the well-put-together presentation. I know that the Town and Public Works Committee, you know, shares your concern about speeding on all of the residential streets. And I did have a question through you, Mr. Chair, whether this is a street that our staff has looked at to apply the town's traffic calming policy, where they look at where they actually go and measure the speeds and the volumes of the traffic and identify whether it meets the town's criteria of a toolbox of different solutions that have been proven across Canada to effectively manage speed. So, Mr. Chair, I would ask if staff do know if this is a street that they have studied.
Martin, would you be able to address that? Our traffic staff is off this week, but maybe Martin could address it. If not, just to clarify, Ms. Pellizzaro is saying upon the completion of the Transportation Master Plan, so it does give staff time to explore it and look at it further, but I will give Martin a chance to respond.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I don't have the answer right now, but I'm quite confident that we do have data for Bartlett, and I can confirm and get back to the committee on that. If we don't have it, I'll say in the hopper, it's pretty easy to get. We can get it pretty quick. We have mobile devices that we can put out there. And then to your point, through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, we will be looking at this as part of the TMP for sure, in terms of not only traffic calming, but urbanization, sidewalks, the whole package. So I think there's a few things I'm hearing that we could look at here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Spink, does that, I know that it does, we don't have the data right now, but does that adequately respond to your question for now?
Yes, definitely it does.
Thank you. Member Rady?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick point, Martin. There is a new sign that was put up just a few months ago, says local traffic only on the east side. Okay, so as you head north on Bartlett Avenue, I know our folks just put a sign up in the last few months, local traffic only. So that, just so you're aware when you ask the question. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And Ms. Pellicero, I think that you've brought up some really good points. And the fact that you said upon completion of the Transportation Master Plan, I especially appreciate, because it acknowledges there's a process that we put in place, but you've brought it to our attention, which kind of puts it on the, puts it on the radar in case it wasn't. Hopefully it was, but in case it wasn't, it puts it on the radar. And some of the points that you made, it's a very unusual situation that we would have a road that exits the highway and doesn't have sidewalks in one portion. So, those are the types of things that, to be frank with you, I never really thought about, even though I've driven down Bartlett multiple times there, and I've driven down the other parts of Bartlett hundreds of times in my lifetime. I never thought about the fact that that north of Lake Street, it didn't have sidewalks and it was ditches, and it was still a rural type road, despite the fact that it's a road that exits the highway. So definitely something that needs to be considered, and something that our staff should look at as far as volume, speed, but also safety, because it is, because of the very specific situation of that road.
People traffic.
And people using it that aren't local residents, then definitely things that we need to consider. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Can I get a mover and a seconder to refer over this matter to staff for further review? I got Member Murphy and Member Rady.
Quick question, Mr.
Yeah, of course. Member Murphy.
There's no traffic calming on there at the moment by the bollards, and, maybe the town could do that as an interim measure before they consider, the whole request here. I think it's a very reasonable request.
Thank you for saying that. We were hoping for the speed bumps, the speed humps, because they are on Lake, like the regional roads have them, but it doesn't seem that the municipal roads have them. And they seem to work very well on Lake. People get to know where they are and they slow down. So thank you for saying that.
Okay, so I have a resolution moved by Member Murphy, seconded by Member Rady, that the request for speed humps on Bartlett Avenue be referred to staff for further review. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks again, Ms. Pellicero.
Yes, and I apologize for the slide fiasco.
Oh, no. Let those of us who have not had issues with technology cast the first stone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a consent report. So moving on to consent reports, does anyone wish to lift report DPW 2321, drinking water QMS operational plan endorsement for discussion, or can we just deal with it as seeing nobody? So can I please get a mover and a seconder to approve the consent report? Member Howe, Councillor Howe, and Councillor Cristangi. All right, let me read this for you. Resolve that the Public Works Committee hereby approves the following item, and that the consent items be approved on the recommendations as contained therein. DPW 2321, that report DPW 2321, 2023 drinking water QMS operational plan endorsement dated August 28, 2023 be received, and that council endorse the current revision of the drinking water QMS operation plan dated August 23, 2023, that the mayor be authorized to sign the current revisions of the drinking water QMS operation plan, and that the council endorse the existing drinking water QMS policy statement as per the drinking water QMS operational plan and drinking water QMS policy. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we have a discussion report, DPW 2322, bylaw amendment for Roberts Road speed limit, which is about the draft bylaw to reduce the speed limit on Roberts Road. Can I please get a mover and a seconder to get the item on the floor for discussion? Councillor Cristangi. Member Murphy. Would any staff from Public Works like to give us a brief overview of the report to start us off? Martin, did you have it?
Yeah, sure, through you, Mr. Chair. So essentially, this report is in response to the council motion to revise the speed limit on Roberts Road from currently 50K to 40 kilometers per hour. So this report is essentially revising the bylaw in order to do that. I guess the one hurdle that staff have is we currently have a flexible bollard traffic calming program underway. So what we are proposing is that we wait until those bollards are removed so that that pilot is complete, and we'll be able to collect full data for the whole duration of the pilot. And that would be late October, early November. And at that point, then we can, upon approval of the bylaw, we can then move forward with the 40K signs.
And I don't want to jump the queue here. My question would be, because we have pretty good data up till now on the 50K, I feel like this is a good opportunity for us to get data on the effectiveness of 40K for the remainder of the pilot program. So if we were to change the speed limit on the road, change the sign in the middle of the road to 40K, and again, if staff doesn't agree, I understand completely, but since it's already been passed and it's kind of out of our control, it might be a good way to gather data to either prove or disprove the effectiveness of a 40 kilometer per hour signage. So, again, if that's not doable and staff doesn't feel that's doable, that's fine. But I feel like it'll prove that it's not going to change speeds a whole bunch, to be honest with you. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but if staff doesn't feel like that's appropriate, or if it's not really doable and that's what you're saying, then I get it. But does what I'm saying make sense to you? If you want to reflect on that, Martin?
Yeah, that's good comments through you, Mr. Chair. In discussions with our senior traffic technologist, his recommendation was to wait to do that change, just so we don't, I guess, sway the current pilot program. And we do have essentially 24/7, 365, I guess, data recorders out there. So we will be able to quickly see once the bollards come down and then the 40K signs. So once the bollards come down, we'll be able to see as is what effect those had on the 50K. So that kind of completes that study. Then we'll do the sign changing to 40K. And then because we're collecting data, we'll be able to see right away what happens, I guess, irrespective of the bollards, how just the 40K change affects it. And then whether we look at doing the traffic calming bollards again next year at the 40K, then we'll have the full picture. So that was the recommendation from Michael, our traffic technologist.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It actually, it might be a good case study for us to reflect on when we're looking at the entire town and the 40K, because we'll be able to see the before and after. So, that makes total sense. Member Rady, a question or a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, looking at the maps, then the next thoroughfare from Livingston to Highway 8 Main Street is Garden Drive, and then Kerman. Kerman's got traffic calming already, I believe, in that area. Do we have equipment we can put on Garden Drive until we change the speed limit to see if there's an increase in traffic on Garden Drive? Is that possible?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So just to clarify, are you asking to basically collect data on Garden throughout the duration of the pilot, just to see what the impacts are, or even beyond once we do the 40K change?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think it's important that if we're going to change it from 50 to 40, and if I'm not mistaken, Garden is 50 now, or would it be 40? Yeah. So we're going to take this major road from Roberts Road from Livingston to Main, and we're going to knock it down to 40, but the next street over is 50. I think we would be very wise to gather data on Garden Drive once we make that change.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I agree 100%, and I think that's a very good thing to do. And I think we'll see results. Yes.
So I see Member Spink. So if you want to pass that on to our staff as far as recommendations, Member Spink, please.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I was disappointed by the council's decision not to agree with our recommendation, but this is their prerogative. I also had the question about the delay in implementing it. I think there will be a lot of pushback from councilors. I would also ask if we perhaps could modify that report to ensure that on the average 85th and sort of super speeders, 1 month and 6 months beyond after the implementation of the 40 kilometer per hour. I don't want the council to now be implementing 40 kilometer per hour street by street by street. It is very inefficient in terms of signage. It's just whoever's yelling loudest will get speeds changed. And I think that, you know, since council has decided to change the speed limit on 40, we should be able to use it as a pilot before making any further changes on other roads. That's my thought.
So to clarify, are you saying what I had originally said about changing it immediately to use it as a, you know, as a way of measuring through, you know, to get a kind of a gauge of the effectiveness of the 40 kilometer an hour sign? Or do you think that we should wait until after the bollards are removed as staff has recommended?
It will be more difficult to determine if any change is just because of the 40 sign, if both things are happening at the same time. I don't think there's as much benefit from seeing what the bollards are going to do. We have an understanding, I believe, from last year in terms of its effectiveness. I suspect that council will want this to be done immediately. I don't know what the delay is in time. Perhaps that's a question for staff. Are we talking about it being in October as opposed to September? That's fine. If it's December as opposed to August, I think that might be a little bit more problematic. But I do think that an embargo on changing speed limits on any other streets until we can get some data over at least a medium term on Roberts would be important.
Thank you. Martin, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that? Because it was the question that was asked was time-wise, what does that mean? And I know that it's usually in time for winter maintenance that it's removed, but if you have a kind of a rough date about...
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I would suggest the end of October would be the target date to get the flexible bollards removed in time for winter maintenance.
Thank you. And Member Spink, your second point about a kind of a moratorium or an embargo on changing speed limits throughout the town, I agree with it. I don't know how enforceable it is. We can suggest it, I guess, and if somebody wants to bring that forward as a resolution, but it's not pertinent to this specific motion. So I think we might have lost you there for a second. But I hope you heard what I said there. I don't know if you did or not. But if somebody wants to bring forward that other issue under new business, then we can address it there. So I have a resolution moved by Councillor Cristangi.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So I just, one thing to consider is school will start in September, so there's going to be a lot more traffic through September, October than we have had in in the summertime. So it's just something to consider. And I just wanted to reiterate what Member Rady said about Garden Drive. I have huge concerns that the traffic is going to go to Garden Drive where there are no sidewalks and there are houses on both sides of the street with driveways and stuff. So I think there's a safety concern there if we're just diverting traffic, because exactly what's going to happen is there's going to be a petition from Garden Drive, there's going to be a petition from Oriole, and this is going to happen all over town now, and we know that, right? But from a safety perspective, if we can monitor how much is actually being rerouted, if it is, that would be fantastic, so we could have those numbers.
Thank you. And I'm actually looking forward to the data that comes as a result of this that shows us how effective a 40 kilometer per hour change to a sign is on the actual driving patterns of people. I think we probably all kind of know the answer to that question, but we'll see for a fact instead of guessing. So resolve that report DPW 2322 bylaw amendment Roberts Road speed limit dated August 28th, 23 be received, and that the proposed bylaw amendment described herein be approved by council. All in favor? That's carried. There's no correspondence. Is there any other business pertaining to the committee? Member Murphy?
Oh, I just have a quick question, and it's tangential to the water report. Where do the storm sewers go? Where do they empty? Or do they get processed, or does it go straight out to the lake?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So the question is, it does ultimately end up in the lake. Some systems have quantity control, so controlling the volume, and some systems have quality control, so controlling the quality. But it would be incorrect to say the entire town has some form of treatment because it is an old system. So any new systems have both. Depending on when the system was built, obviously, the older systems had nothing. So I guess to answer your question, some of the storm water is treated before it reaches Lake Ontario. Some is not.
Thank you. My only concern. I did it, but it didn't go on. Dumping things other than water down the storm sewers, and it occurred to me that perhaps with the next water bill, it might be a good idea to put a reminder in there of what you should not send down a storm sewer, just as a suggestion, as an idea. You know, once in a while we get these little reminders, don't do this, don't do that, and people, I've seen them dump paint, you know, and soap and all sorts of stuff, and I don't think that's appropriate. So I was just suggesting that with the water bill come a little note that says, please do not dump anything other than water down the storm sewer. End of story.
Martin?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, that's a great point, and not only, I would say, is it not correct to do it, it's illegal. So the region has a sewer use bylaw, which prohibits the dumping of essentially anything but stormwater down into the storm drain. So, you know, essentially, if it is done and it can be stopped in action, there's you know, certain bylaws or there is a bylaw that you know, they can go after the people that are doing it. So, yeah, it's certainly not allowed.
Thanks, Marvin. I'm sorry that I kept calling you Martin. A lot of Martins in my youth in Grimsby, so it's a very common name. Marvin is not, and I won't make the mistake again. Going back to what Member Murphy brought up, over the last 20 years, we've had a lot of discussion about it, you know, because there are old systems where, back in the old days, you know that old systems like, especially Hamilton is well known to, they don't, it's not separate in some of the older infrastructure, so you have to treat everything. That's why what you see in larger municipalities, when there are large storms that happen quickly, they have to dump overflow into the lake, which thankfully is not a huge problem in Grimsby because most of our infrastructure is new, but there are still places where pre-existing infrastructure where Mr. LaRue and staff over the years tried to fix those things. There are also old neighborhoods where people's, and you might live in one of those neighborhoods, where people's washing machines used to dump straight into the ditch. You know, if you, sometimes you drive through people's neighborhoods and it smells like laundry and you see the pump going out. That's because people used to illegally attach their sump pumps and the washer overflow together. Again, these are things that do need to be brought to people's attention. People need to be reminded of those things, and so I'm glad that you brought it up. And if it's not super expensive and not something that's too onerous on staff to put a reminder like that into a mail out, it's definitely not going to hurt. Any other questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, seeing no other new business, the next Public Works Committee meeting is scheduled for September 25th, 2023 at 6:30 PM. Thanks, everybody, and have a great night. Meeting's adjourned.